All right. We are back for another great episode of Black Equity. I am excited about this conversation. I just read a book within the last week or so that to me has changed my life. I'm just being completely honest. On the program today, we have Amed Hazel. He is the co-founder of Premier Capital Investments, Premier Fund Management Group, Legacy Builders Management, and the author of the book I just finished, Profiting from Non-Performing Mortgage Notes. Did I get all that correct?
Yes, sir.
Welcome to Black Equity. How are you doing today?
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Oh, no, definitely. The pleasure is all ours. We are excited about this conversation. For those who don't know who you are, man, tell us a little bit about yourself and the companies that you service.
Awesome. Thank you so much again. Yeah, I'm a guy, I grew up in Baltimore, Maryland, went to Baltimore City Public Schools, had an idea of being a physician at one time. Went to Morgan State University for biology to try to transfer over into the medical field. I was also a firefighter in Maryland for a number of years, for almost a decade. Family man, definitely. Father of 5 young men. One passed on, but I love being a husband and a father. And outside of that, I tend to work a lot. The companies that I founded, my wife and I founded these companies together, and our intention was really to do our best work in helping people with their finances and getting returns on investments and things like that.
Okay. So I came across your book about a month ago. I actually caught an interview that you were on. It was a great interview. And I said, well, hold on now. This sounds very similar to a background that I had about 10 years ago working in the home preservation department of a mortgage department of a top 5 bank here in the United States. I said, wait, this is the exact thing I was doing, but on the servicing side. And I was always wondering when I was sitting in this cubicle and I had a portfolio of like 200 different homeowners. I'm working with them on a daily basis, and the salary was pretty low. I always said there has to be another side to this. And so for me, this was an aha moment to bump into your interview and then, of course, read your book. If you could describe, the book says, profiting from non-performing mortgage notes. If you could describe what is a non-performing mortgage note.
Awesome. So first, let me tell you what a note is.
Okay.
So whenever someone signs really for any type of loan, but let's just say we're talking about real estate, a residential real estate property. The person signs mainly, you sign a lot of documents, but initially you're signing 2 main documents. One is what they call the promissory note, which is your promise to pay back the debt. And we shorten it by just calling it a note. But then you also sign the mortgage. And the mortgage acts as the enforcement tool to say, well, if you don't pay the note back, then these are going to be your penalties, your late fees, et cetera, et cetera. So essentially the note is the document that promises to pay back a mortgage. And a non-performing note means that this homeowner, for some reason or another, has fallen on hard times or what have you, and is not paying on the note. So the bank or the industry calls it non-performing.
Okay. So make sure I'm understanding this correctly, because I think this is very important, because I know where this conversation may head. So I want to make sure I get this right foundationally. All right, so is the mortgage and the note separate?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Now we're getting somewhere. We're getting somewhere with this. Okay. So the mortgage and the note is separate. Which one, in your opinion, is the most important to have ownership of?
The note.
Okay.
But
Okay.
they're separate, but they're kind of married too,
Okay. Tell me more about that. How are they married?
because the mortgage is directing its comments back to the original note. So the mortgage is saying, yeah, we are the sword that deals with this particular note.
So the note comes before the mortgage,
Yes.
but then the mortgage is uh, the directions for the public. If I'm saying it correct, and please correct me if I'm wrong, the mortgage is the directions to the public of where this money should go or where this property is being held. Am I
Yeah.
somewhere on the right track?
Yeah. So the mortgage is saying this is where this amount of money has been lent to or for this particular property to this particular individual that has promised over here to pay for it with this document.
Mm, okay. Now you've added a third element into this conversation. Now you've brought the property in. So we have, let me make sure I'm breaking this thing down. We have a note that comes first. Then there is a mortgage, but this is all directly tied to some sort of asset, some type of property. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yes, but I would redefine how you broke it down, and I would say it like this. So in our industry, we talk about the 3 Ps. We say we have the paper, which is the note, the mortgage, all of that, all of
Okay.
those documents.
Okay.
That file is the paper.
Okay.
Then we have the person, the individual that signed for the loan. And then we have the property. So we deal with those 3 Ps.
Okay. Now, for those who are listening to this, the reason why I'm making sure that we define this is because I've been paying attention to this real estate investing world for quite some time. Okay. And I've never come across anyone who is about to share with us and is sharing with us this side of quote unquote the game. Most people are talking about the property. And in order to get the property, they talk about how much are they paying on their monthly mortgage and how much they can rent it out or how much they can flip it. So I hear about mortgages and I hear about properties. No one ever talks about the note. My question is, and you may have the answer, you may not, why am I never hearing about the note?
Very, very good. So can I want to give you just my philosophical take on what you just asked.
Okay.
So if I have a property, I have to pay property tax. I have to pay for plumbing. I have to pay for the closing attorney. I have to pay for so many things around the property. That keeps a lot of people in business. But when we're talking about investing in notes, there's no taxes on notes, because it's so when I say that, I'm not addressing this from a tax perspective. I said this is my philosophical answer.
Understood.
Okay.
Understood.
So because I'm not a CPA, I'm not a tax expert or anything like that, but this is my philosophical approach, that a note is considered personal property.
Hmm.
So it is not taxed in and of itself.
Understood.
So when you are purchasing a note or you are a note owner, essentially you're being viewed as a bank.
Okay, now you Now, now you got to
I
get
mean,
deep up in
look,
here.
bro, you want me to get you want me to tell you the real story or play games?
No, we about to get into this. Wait, okay. Hold up. Because I know this is going to be a groundbreaking episode here. So, paper, person, property. Before I go into, because now you've brought in seeing yourself as a bank. Before I bring that concept in, and I am going to bring that up, why? Okay, you mentioned about the property, there's so many different hands in the property. And so, because there's so many different hands, that reality has to keep circulating out there through conversations in order for everybody to get paid through. That's how the economy works
Yes.
is through, what comes out of me is your income.
Right.
Income. And so you got these 10 different people, with their 20 different hands in these different pots. And so everybody's going to focus on property and mortgage, because that's where all the hands are. But technically, or not technically, but what I'm hearing, and please correct me if I'm wrong, the note typically is only in one pair of hands.
Yes.
Okay. And with the note being in one pair of hands, that then gives you control over everything.
Control without ownership.
Why did you make that distinction?
Because ownership now makes me responsible for so many things. So now I'm responsible for the property taxes. Now I'm responsible for the upkeep. If the hot water heater goes up in the middle of the night when I own the property, I'm responsible for that. If the water main breaks, I'm responsible for that. But when you are the note owner, you have control without ownership.
The famous quote that circulates across all business circles is own nothing and control everything. But when you go on Instagram, social media, when you actually look at what everybody's talking about ownership.
Right.
But if the quote says control, own nothing, control everything, why are people playing the game backwards?
Yeah, because so I've always just been this guy, and I got this concept from my dad, Clifford
Okay.
Hazel. He passed on, but I got this concept from him. And he always taught me that there is common knowledge and then there is secret knowledge. And he told me always look for the secret knowledge. So you got a lot of common knowledge that people are just like, yeah, this is what it is and this is how it works and this is what we're going to do. But then you have secret knowledge that other people know that they use to control everything and own nothing.
Okay. So what we have stumbled across here, at least through Black equity, we now have a new opportunity for investors. Now, all this time you've been focused on property, and of course you've been the person, and I guess a little bit of paper on the mortgage side. But now there's a new opportunity here, but it's not really new. It's always been there,
It's been there.
but you just didn't know about it. So, okay, you've now introduced us to a new concept to us. And so we thank you for that.
My pleasure.
With that new concept, you're saying, well, hey, now that you know this, you can actually operate like a bank. What do you mean by that concept?
Yeah, and I first want to say it does not mean that you are a licensed bank by the Federal Reserve in any such a way.
Understood.
I'm only saying that to say that the bank is making the majority of its money from debt and mortgage investments and loaning money out for whatever they're loaning money out for. But for whatever they're loaning money out for, they always have a promissory note attached to that loan. Now, my specialty, and I'm going to answer your question, but I want to make the distinction that my specialty is on what what we call in our industry mortgage-backed securities.
Okay.
So my specialty is on controlling the note around some type of real estate. But there are notes on everything. I mean, you can buy notes on cars, you could buy it on airplanes, submarines, etc. So there are notes that people specialize in just about everything, but my specialty is just mortgages. So when a person is actively, or let me just say, when a person is buying notes, that person now is receiving the income from those notes, just like the bank would receive the income from those notes.
Okay. I'm going to dive into that coming up, but you kind of shown me something, and I want to make sure that we kind of drill down and examine this. You mentioned that your specialty is in the mortgage-backed securities and tied to real estate. Before getting into the world of notes, were you already dealing with real estate? Why did you choose this type of note to focus on?
Yeah, I was a real estate guy. I was, going into homes. I was taking pictures. I was, touching 2x4s. I was, walking around the house, talking to the homeowner, trying to buy the house. And at that time, we were doing something called wholesaling, which was we would buy or set up the contract or the agreement with the homeowner. And then later, before we get to closing, we would sell that contract to another investor. So that was my thing. I was in real estate, which was a good thing for me because it gave me an idea, two important ideas. One is I learned about the people that are in these homes, that there are people that are having hardships and struggles, and they're legitimate a lot of times. And then I also learned too about really how to evaluate the property and what's a good investment and what's not a good investment from the real estate standpoint. So yeah, I was a real estate guy first.
Okay. So because you already had that background in real estate, it took you down this path. You were introduced to uh, understanding about notes. Why would I focus on, and this may be a crazy question, why would I focus on non-performing notes? Why would I not focus on something that is already doing wonderful?
Yeah, that's great because it's a great question. For me, what I realized was that all notes that are non-performing were once performing. So with a non-performing note, I have two things that I like to have weigh in my favor. One is that I know the worst has already happened to this investment. And two, I know that this is something that I have learned and began to understand how to fix it. And most of the time, and I could be overstating this, but most of the time for myself, it's become easy to fix.
Okay. Okay. So I really like what you said there. The worst has already happened with this particular, I'm looking at it as an investment, but the worst has already happened. There's an opportunity for me to improve on it. And by improving on this investment, I could see a significant return. Am I understanding that correctly?
So you are. And the reason that it is a significant return is this. When a person is purchasing a performing loan, this is a loan where the person, let's say they have a 700 credit score, they've made all of their payments on time, the family or individual has a steady income that's solid, the bank sees that as, A plus paper on their side. So if they are going to liquidate that or sell that, they want 90, 95 cents on a dollar. Sometimes I've seen them ask for as high as 120 cents on a dollar for that investment. Whereas a non-performing note that hasn't performed in 2 years, the bank is saying, we have this eyesore on our books. We can't collect on it for whatever reason. We need to get rid of it so that we continue to look good. So they sell it cheaply.
Understood. What made you sit down and put the pen to paper and write this book when so many people don't know about this? You could have kept it to yourself. This is, to me, it's a game changer. What made you sit down and write this book and give it to our culture?
Initially, I felt that way. I was like, yes, like what I got, like we're making money. I don't care, and for a while, understand my growth process, that I was laughing at other people. I was saying, look, I would, sometimes talk to my friends that are in real estate, and I would say, how much did you pay for that investment property? I paid $200,000 for it. We're going to fix it up and sell it for $300,000. And I'm like, bro, that's crazy. Why would you put out $200,000 for that? And, I bought the one next door and I only paid $50,000 for the note. Like, so I would be out in my head, I would be laughing and kind of snickering. And, after a while of just, you start making money and it's like, okay, all right, we're good. And I started feeling an emptiness that I really wanted to help people. And I hope that doesn't really sound corny, but
not to me.
It's like, I really started feeling that, like, okay, so how much can I really win when it's just me winning? Like, I want to bring other people into this and share this opportunity, because I can't buy all of this debt myself. I want to be able to share this with the world and have this as my contribution back to our economy, to our improvement. So I wanted to write it in very simple English, as plain as I can get it, without a lot of legal terminology and things like that. And that was really hard for me to sit down and just put pen to pad and write this out so that it's easy to understand and not, a legal discourse on mortgage-backed securities and non-performing mortgage notes.
Just from my personal experience, as I was reading this book, so many light bulbs went off, because I knew, and I don't say this to try to take any shots at what other people are doing, but I knew a lot of what other people were doing in real estate. It just never made sense to me. Because I sat at that desk for 4 or 5 years, I knew that you existed. Now, I don't know what year I know it's in the book, but I don't remember what year you began this. How long ago did you?
I started this late 2005.
Okay. So yeah. So on the other side of this world, you existed. When I was sitting at the desk working for this bank and servicing the loan, I knew, I didn't truly know, but I knew something wasn't adding up. I mean, there was just so much opportunity sitting in front of me, and I couldn't put my finger on it. I couldn't figure out, well, how do I become the opposite side of this? And then I started hearing, oh, they're just going to sell those off. To who? Where's it going? But then I'm like, well, I don't have the funds. So What do I do? So you walk away with your head held down, down, but now you're telling me, especially with all the stuff that's going on now, there may be some changes to the economy. You're telling me, no, my brother, you have an opportunity to be on that side that you always wanted to be on that right side of the table.
Absolutely. Now, let me tell you something. Is it okay if I give up a secret?
Sure, go ahead.
All right. So when I started, okay, understand that I was in wholesaling real estate. So a lot of times when we hear an interview like yours, people sometimes will they may not really get the full gem of what's really being said.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when I was wholesaling real estate, I said that I would work out the contract with the homeowner. And then I would later sell it before we got to closing to another investor.
Okay.
And when I was, with notes, I thought to myself, what if I did that with notes?
Mm.
Come on, bro. I'm trying to get you the gem here.
Hold on. Let me make sure I'm making sense of what you're saying. So the same concept of wholesaling, instead of you have the contract, what's the assignment contract
Yep.
in wholesaling. I know a little bit. And so you're saying instead of selling that property off to the end buyer, you would sell the contract to another investor.
When I was doing real estate, yes.
And so you're taking that same concept with notes.
Yes.
And so you're saying, well, we could be those investors.
Yes.
We being the people from our culture, the people who are listening to this episode, because you have access to these notes, because you've put yourself in the middle of the flow of these notes that are out here, you could be a source for other investors to get into the game.
Absolutely.
Okay, hold on now. Okay, because what people may not realize with this episode, they may have to go back, they may have to read the book and then come back, they may have to come back, read the book at the exact same time. But the reason why it's hitting me so hard is because I was in the middle of this thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I know exactly the power of what we are talking about here. You mentioned earlier an example. You mentioned someone had bought a $200,000 home and they were going to sell it for $300,000, and then you said, "Well, I got it for $50K." Break down that scenario for me. Just let's say those are the numbers, and you did get that mortgage note that note, performing note for $50K. Let's say you did get that for $50K. How do I profit off of that? If I'm that investor who got it for $50K, the house is currently on the market somewhere at $200,000, but it could be sold for $300,000. How does that help me?
Okay, so first of all, you said mortgage note, and that is a term that we use in the industry, but it's not 100% correct, because they are two different things. But yes, that is language that we use in the industry. So I just wanted you to know that you were not wrong on that.
Okay.
But if I bought the house, if I bought the mortgage to the home next door at $50K, and let me just create a scenario. Let's say I went to Miss Jones and I said, "Miss Jones, we're your new note holders, and we noticed you haven't paid in 2 years." Miss Jones says, "Well, I moved out about 2 months ago, so the property is vacant." I say, "Miss Jones, if you would sign the deed back over to us, we would be willing to just release you from the loan with no penalties to your credit, no deficiency judgment that could possibly hit your income or anything. We would just be willing to release you from this debt and obligation, and it wouldn't show anywhere else for you any longer. It would be a weight off of your back. Ms. Jones says, where do I sign? Ms. Jones, don't worry. I'm going to send you the information and have you sign this over to us, and then we'll be out of your hair. Ms. Jones signs that property over to us because remember, we own the note, but we did not own the property.
Right.
Once she signs it over to us, now we own the property. Now, if the property next door sold for $200, maybe I could sell this one for $200.
So now you have the note and the deed, and you now got all the control and all the leverage you can possibly need, and you have obtained this with an investment, in this scenario, an investment of $50,000.
Yes.
Okay. But the property is, with the scenario that we have, the property could go for $300,000, but you may just sell it to one of those other real estate investors who may want to buy it at $200,000.
Absolutely.
So let them continue playing their game. Let them continue doing the what everybody is saying is balling and going out and get the $200,000 property and flip it for $300,000. Oh, that's the game you're playing. Cool. Well, here's the note. Well, I have the note. I'm going to sell this to you for $200,000. Now I've made a profit of $150,000, and that may have been within 30 days.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah, it could be a week.
Okay. Why do you think, and you've touched on it a little bit earlier, but I'm gonna drill down a little bit more.
Okay.
Why do you think that's a better option than doing the 200,000 and flipping it for 300,000? I'm still getting a profit of, let's just say 80,000. I'm still getting a profit of 80,000. You made 150. I'm making 80,000. I know it's not, it's a big difference, but I'm still making money. Why do you think your way is quote unquote better?
Yeah, one of the things that was important to me was that I be a husband and a father first. And the one thing that I did not want to be tied up in is tied up in real estate deals all the time. I did not want to be managing contractors. I didn't want to have to go to properties and constantly look at properties. I wanted to be, sitting, at home, with my kids, playing football, barbecuing on the grill. I wanted to be that kind of a man. And so for me, the thing that we're all limited by is we're all limited by time. And those deals tie up a lot of time where I didn't want to be tied up all the time. I wanted to be able to really enjoy life. A quality of life is what I wanted to have. And I wanted my kids to know me like, so I have 2 sons in college right now. And from the time that they started school until the time that they finished school, I took all 3 of my sons that live with me to school and picked them up every single day. And I just wanted that for my life, where I could prep them before we went to school and then help them decompress after school and be at all of their sporting events to cheer them on. I just wanted that for my life. And I did not want to be stuck managing a real estate project. I could literally sit back and manage these investments from my cell phone or laptop and act and behave just like a banker would.
Okay. Now we've uncovered, to me, I mean, you asked earlier about, revealing a secret. This whole episode is a secret. This whole, because now you got your life back. Now those precious moments, you're able to be there. For those who don't know, who have not gotten into the real estate game, you may spend months on a real estate deal. And you may have to deal with this and deal with that and be running back and forth, always going places. And that's just one deal. You may have 5 or 6 deals on the table. So you're ripping across one side of your city and then going to the other side of your city, or going over here and going over there. And you have a lot going on, to the point where you look up and your life is gone because you're so busy being an investor that you're not a person. And what I'm hearing you say is, well, the way I'm maneuvering, the way I've positioned myself, I have my life back, where I'm managing this asset that I've obtained, but it's not a lot of headaches,
Right.
per se. Am I hearing that correctly?
Correct. It's not a lot of it's not a lot of, I don't rip and run anywhere. So in the probably 3,000 plus deals that I've done, I'm gonna be liberal,
Okay.
and say that I've seen in person less than 5. I want to say it's 2, but it's less than 5
Okay.
actual properties.
You may not be able to answer this, and I completely understand. What about investing in non-performing notes frees up so much time?
I can just look at the numbers on the paper and see it. Over time, it becomes like you're in the movie The Matrix. Like, you can start to see through the numbers on the paper and say, oh, this is a deal right here. This is an exceptional deal that I can make money off of. And by the way, I know my friend Johnny over here is buying deals in this particular state, because eventually you wind up building a large network of buyers. Johnny is buying these types of deals in Ohio. I can easily go and call Johnny and say, hey, I got a deal that I think you might like. I'm gonna email it to you. And I email it to Johnny, and then he says yes. And I say, send me the wire, and the deal is over with in less than an hour.
Wow. So you mentioned that could sometimes be a week. I'm sensing that sometimes it could be less than a week.
Yeah, I'm just trying to,
I know. I feel. I just because I've been on that side of the world, I can sense that as soon as a deal comes in, it can literally go out within hours, or within a couple of days once everything's been finalized. I mean, you don't have to hold on to it long because it's such a great deal.
Yes.
Because you're really getting in at one of the best prices, and then you're finding something that is perfectly aligned for their city. And this is what they've been waiting for their entire life. This is the deal that they've been wanting. And they're always going to keep coming back to you because they want that fresh inventory. You really have positioned yourself as just for those who are listening, like a bank.
Yeah. Here's what's powerful though. So let's say I take that scenario that we talked about, and I say, Johnny, I have this investment property, and your competitor that has a property next door, he paid $200,000 for it. I'm willing to let you have this particular deal for $60K.
So by doing that, you may not get as much, but you're sweetening the pot for him, where it's really, you can't really say no.
Right. He's gonna be coming back to me, for decades, because I don't need to make all of the profit on a deal. I don't need that. And I'm like, if you're going to be out there with buying the drywall and managing the contractors and having people break back into the property and steal the copper plumbing, piping, and all of that, then look, I want you to have some cushion and money that you can make. So I don't need to make 200% off of the deal. If, I
Hmm.
can make just a little bit off of the deal, but I can keep volume flowing your way, that's more beneficial to me because now I'm acting as a note wholesaler instead of just, fighting and squeezing you for every drop that I can.
Okay. Let me ask this. For people who are listening to this episode, they probably, if they're smart, they went ahead and they downloaded your book or they've ordered it and it's on the way. Are they going, if they listen to this and read your book and then potentially reach out and want to work with you, are they going to be able to do some of the similar things that you're doing, or are they going to be the person that is, receiving that sweet deal from you, but they're not quite doing what you're doing?
Okay, so yeah, I would advise everybody, if you're interested in this space, if this piques your interest, I would
Mhm.
say definitely read the book
Okay.
um, to get deeper insight on it. Um, for a person to do what I'm able to do, first of all, I've heard of this quote before: "What man has done, men can do."
Hmm.
So I'm not saying that it's impossible for somebody else to do. Um, I put in a lot of time into perfecting the skill. Anybody can do it. Anybody can do it. Depending on what resources you have at your disposal, can tend to dictate how fast you can scale. But anybody can do this. Anybody can buy notes, and anybody can become a note wholesaler.
Okay.
So it's totally possible, but I'm not making any claims that you're going to have the same success that I have had.
That part I understand. I don't, I would never anticipate that everybody would have the same success. But I guess where my question was, are they going to be doing some of the same functions as you? I know there's going to be people who want to work with you. Of course, they need to read the book. They need to make sure. I know when I first heard your interview, you said, hey, I may not necessarily work with everybody. And so read the book first and decide if it's really something that you're interested in first before you contact me. And so I made sure I did that. I didn't want to just go and try to contact you and learn everything before doing my own research. So I began doing my own research. I read the book. I was pleasantly surprised to know, oh shoot, I kind of know this world just a little bit, not as much as you, but I saw it flash before my eyes per se. And so I'm wondering, because I know this is a space that I definitely want to be in, right? What will be some of the functions if I'm able to work with you? What are some of the functions that I will be doing? Will it be similar to what you're doing, or is it one level away from what you're doing?
No, the functions, you're going to be doing exactly what I'm doing,
Okay.
right? You're going to be doing the exact work.
Okay.
And, you know, maybe not the same magnitude, but the exact same work. It's all the same. And what I like to tell people is that, the one thing that I realized, coming into this space from being the guy that was meeting people in their living room, is that, man, you have to treat people with decency and respect, and you got to have that as a quality, because people have fallen on hard times for whatever reason. Wherever I find them, I'm always looking to improve upon a person's current situation, and I make sure that the people that work for me, because I'm at the, I don't make calls directly to homeowners any longer, but and I would advise somebody, not to either. I have solutions for all of these things, but I always advise people, man, treat people with decency and respect, show them courtesy, and have some empathy for where they may be at any given situation. But this is something that anybody can really learn if they put the time, energy, and effort into it.
Now, in the book, it mentions, and I'm only bringing this up because it was a seat that I sat in. It says, make sure you hire or contract a really good servicing company, right? I was on that side. I wasn't necessarily the servicing company.
Right.
I was an employee of a servicing company, which in this situation happened to be a bank. So as the servicing company, I'll be completely honest with you. We treated these homeowners like they weren't nothing.
I know.
And so I'm reading your book, right? And you're like, yeah, make sure that they're kind and respectful, and you know they're going to treat your people well. And I said, oh my goodness, I don't know what loan servicing company this is going to be, because all the loan servicing companies I've ever saw, it was a war in those rooms.
Yeah.
Because you're just trying to make people make a payment to get back, you know, right. I mean, these people are 16 payments, you know, behind, 100 payments behind, and you're just trying to get people back on, or you know, hey, ma'am, sir, you may lose your home. And if you do, oh, well, you know, have a great day. And I'm just being honest, that was the world I was in.
Sure.
And so I'll be honest, it was actually eating me alive. You know, being there for 8 hours and just being around, for lack of a better word, filth. It was just anger, and people are calling up angry at you. The people that are around you that are on the phones are angry at those people. Everybody's angry at everybody. And then you're supposed to meet quotas and numbers, and there's all this stuff happening. And in the back of my mind, I said, there got to be a better way. There got to be a way to actually help people.
Yeah.
And what I heard from you through the book, of course, I've been able to attend a meeting with you as well. We've had an opportunity to talk. What I've heard is, man, when you get on this side, you have a lot more leverage to really help people. You mentioned earlier, you know, talking to that homeowner and saying, hey, you know, we can, you know, if you're ready, we can go ahead and release that deed. It won't be any more issue to you. Take the sweat off your back. You have enough, you know, leverage and control to be able to really help people right then and right there.
Absolutely. And like, there are some times that one of the things that my wife and I, we deal with. So, okay, so let me just give you the scope.
Okay.
So we manage, we have an investment fund where we manage other people's investment capital.
Okay.
In doing so, I'm obligated to make sure that my investors get a return on their capital, right? A nice return on their capital. At the same time, I have a heart. And there are times that when it makes sense, and if it makes sense, we are particularly compassionate to elderly people. So if I see someone in a home and they're elderly and they've begun to miss payments, then we may just release the lien. We may just completely write the lien off and call the homeowner up and say, hey, we just want you to know that this isn't a mistake. We're actually releasing your lien and we're stamping it as paid in full.
Wow. And what makes you do that? What makes you have that kind of heart?
Well, I remember when I was younger, there was a man that my mother was a renter, and there was a man that used to come collect the rent. Back in the day, they used to go knocking door to door to collect the rental payments. And when my mother couldn't pay, he always, you know, worked with my mom. You know, he was a kind man. You know, he was a little stern, but he was kind. He would let my mother sometimes go 3-4 months behind and then allow her and work out a payment scenario where she got caught up. So I always remembered that he did that. And I wasn't consciously processing it this way, but I think in my heart, I was saying, I want to be like that guy when I grow up.
Mm.
and it left an impact on me. So when we're looking at, files, and we see that we have someone that's elderly, and the numbers make sense to us, we'll just release the lien and stamp it as paid in full.
That's awesome. That is definitely awesome. And for me, just hearing that story, and I know you and I have had an opportunity to talk off air, that's the kind of work to me that's fulfilling, is being able to now be, although it sounds cool on the business side to say, own nothing, control everything, and having the control so you can have all the money and all the other stuff. But you really want the control so you can make those final decisions and make those executive decisions. When you know it's the right thing to do, you actually have the power to do that. And
Yes.
so I think that is the reason for wanting to position yourself, not just for the money, but to really make sure that you're making the decisions for your company that fit your heart and your character.
Yeah, and again, we can make these decisions. Sometimes it takes me less than 5 minutes to make a decision. I don't have to really consult with an entire board of directors. I just talk to my wife and I say, listen, I've been looking at some loans, and I think that we should release these loans. And my wife will come and she'll give it a quick glance over to make sure I'm not losing my mind. And then, we'll snap and okay, it's done. It's took less than 5 minutes to decide. And then, I'll send them off to one of my guys, the addresses, and say, release these and tell the homeowners that we forgave the debt. And this is our way of giving back to the community, though, to those people that, and I don't need a banner. I don't need to create like a live video where I do it or anything like that.
Right.
I could just say this is what I did. And, um, the, the benefit or whatever is between me and God. And I don't need to talk about it.
And in most cases, you still own that note, and so what they're paying monthly it's still going towards the investment that you made, as far as the amount that they're paying monthly, right?
No, we
Oh,
erased it.
they're just paid up forever.
Yeah, we just erased it.
Wow, wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, we just essentially give them their property and they owe us nothing else.
That's awesome. That is a dope concept. I can't wait to do that one day. I do want to talk a little bit. I don't like getting into this subject because I know everybody's talking about it, but I think it fits in this conversation. You got the coronavirus, you have the economy, everybody's talking about what's going to happen, stimulus checks. How does that, and the conversation that's currently happening at the time of this recording, how does that impact your industry?
So I don't want to sound brash, um, but I love it.
Break it down. Break it down.
Yeah, when it's like if so as a firefighter, um, if you have totally like a safe community, no bad things happening, nobody going to hospitals, no ambulance trips or anything like that, the federal government is looking at all of those reports that we run.
Mm-hmm.
And if there aren't any reports, they start closing firehouses.
Yeah.
So you could, if they close a firehouse, they may have to lay off, 30 to 50 people every time they close a house. So it's the same way with my industry. When the economy is going bad, when everything is crazy, for my business, that is a huge benefit. That is the climate that we like to operate in, because then banks are starting to look at liquidating their toxic assets at deeper and deeper discounts to create more money for those stimulus checks.
The banks are in a position where they need to get money flowing. And so they're going to possibly sell off their non-performing notes. And in this situation, their mortgage note, or I'm sorry, well, you say I'm right by saying mortgage notes. So they're looking to sell off their non-performing mortgage notes that they have in inventory. And so it's a perfect opportunity for you to say, well, perfect, let's make sure we get a really good deal on it though.
Yeah, because going back to that scenario earlier,
Mm-hmm.
that $50,000 mortgage that we purchased from them, they might sell it to us for $30,000. They might sell it to us for $20,000. They might sell it to us for $10,000. $5,000. It just depends. And if I'm getting it at $5,000, and I realize that we made $150,000 on this deal over here, and this deal that I got at $5,000 is Mrs. Smith, and she's 75,
Mm-hmm.
right, on a fixed income. Now it's easier to write off that deal.
Yeah.
I just made $150,000 over here, so
Right.
I can write off Miss Smith's loan and create some goodness in the world.
That's awesome. That's definitely awesome. So right now, with coronaviruses, economy talk, this is a really great time if you're looking to get into this industry, this is a great time to be walking in and learning this valuable skill set, and then possibly doing this for the rest of your life if it's something that you decide to do.
Yeah, I've done this every day since late 2005.
Mm.
So I haven't worked anywhere. I haven't done anything employment wise since late 2005. And it's been really great.
I can tell when I talk to you, your heart is full of joy because you're helping people. You have an amazing space that you're in that is very profitable, and you own nothing. Well, I don't know your full, I don't know your full portfolio, but just for the sake of the argument,
Yes.
own nothing and you control everything.
Yes.
And so you really get to make the decisions in your business. A lot of people say that they're the boss and they're the whatever, but in this situation, you really make all the decisions.
Yeah, all the decisions. And and it's so amazing that in my personal opinion, and I've studied other different investment models, in my personal opinion, I can't see anything else that compares to this space by far, because I'm using the tool that the banks use that has built this country. I'm using I've learned how to use the same exact tool that they use. And so what I'm about to say is my personal opinion. I am better than them.
Okay.
Because I don't have a huge board of directors that I have to appease. I don't have, when we're looking at deals, I don't have to make a decision on, like, if I'm going to make a change, if I'm going to give Miss Smith a release of lien on her deal, all right, with the bank, once they set that precedent, they now may have to keep that precedent across all of their deals.
Right.
I don't. I can just grant Ms. Smith a release of lien, and I don't have to have a board of directors or, some track record because I'm a private company. So I can just, release who I want to release, and that be it. So I'm more flexible than what a bank could be because of their huge corporate structure. And because of that, we can get through deals fast. We can help people. We can, get great returns.
Before we let everybody know where they can go to learn more, where they can go and get the book, a question is floating in my mind. I want to make sure I ask it because I understand that you can be virtual and basically do this from home and really from anywhere. Can you be in? I'm in North Carolina. Can I be in North Carolina and invest in California, or is it better to stay within my own state? How does that part work?
Yeah, so I just recently moved to Georgia, but I spent my entire note career in Maryland,
Okay.
and I bought notes all over the country.
Okay.
Um, I had an opportunity one time to buy a resort in Puerto Rico. I didn't buy it,
Okay.
but I had the opportunity to. But yeah, you can be anywhere and invest in notes and profit from it.
The reason why I asked that is because, on a normal time where there's no coronavirus or anything like that, just regular time, there may be a city that is going through its own mini recession within that particular city. So you may be able to look at that city and say, okay, it's time for us to, invest in this particular area. And so you may look for those types of notes in those areas. Is that a strategy that would make sense in this space?
Yeah, and that's exactly what we do a lot of
Okay.
times. I can look at an area, or if I get wind of an area that might have, a stadium going up, talks of a stadium, talks of some improvement. I start looking at the real estate surrounding that area, and then I start focusing in on buying those notes, because if they're going to be offering those people money to move or relocate, they're going to have to pay off those notes on those properties as well. So that's a strategy that we use. If there's a depressed market, we look to go in, purchase those notes, and see what we can do to kind of invigorate that market by, showing that this community doesn't just have a bunch of non-performing mortgage notes, but there's been some kind of influx of capital into that community.
What I like about this concept is it gives someone like me a lot of room to play. I can be as strategic as I want to be. I can, move my mind from looking at Chicago and then going down to San Antonio. My mind can be everywhere, and I'm just sitting in Charlotte, North Carolina the whole time. I love that idea of being everywhere, but being nowhere at the exact same time. And I can go on vacation and I can still be working, but I'm on vacation. That kind of concept, it resonates with me. On top of the fact that I have an instrument, I have an asset that gives me complete control of what I'm doing. I don't have to answer to anybody anymore.
Right.
I'm not waiting on anybody. Everybody's waiting on me. I'm creating the opportunity for the rest of the investment game to, bounce off of what I'm doing, not the other way around.
Yeah, and one of the things is, I don't want to say any name, but there's a real popular guy who talks a lot. That's been he's been hitting the stages more recently.
Okay.
But he and I had did a similar type of interview back in 2016. And
I
he was
think I saw
kind of
that interview, but I'll keep it quiet.
and he was basically saying, how his investment was better. And my thing was, I'm just saying that now he's been experiencing some troubles.
I saw that as well, but I'll keep that. Exactly.
And I'm saying it's because like I was trying to tell him back in 2016, when the economy is great, then you're going to have, as your investment model, you're acquiring so many properties, it's going to be great for you. But at any moment that the economy begins to shift in the other direction, you're going to be in a lot of trouble, because when you're holding these properties and you have gotten a loan from the bank to make these investments, the one thing that a lot of people don't really understand is that now he has mortgages that he has to pay back to the bank on all of these profits. Now, he may be able to arbitrage the money in the middle and make significant income, but at the same time, you still now owe a mortgage to someone. And all I was saying was that a lot of times the mortgage that you may owe to someone might be me.
Okay, hold on, because we got to go. I mean, we can talk for another 3 hours, but that's why we opened up this episode, and we broke it down. For those who are tuning into this part and they forgot, go back to the beginning of this conversation. The first thing I try to understand is note mortgage. I try to understand it, and so now we're coming full circle. So for one last time, why is there a distinction between a mortgage and a note? And the reason why I'm asking this, you're mentioning these investors out here, they have all these mortgages, but they don't necessarily have all these notes.
Right.
So one last time, what's the difference between what you're doing and what somebody who has all these mortgages, all these apartment buildings, all these different things that, can cash flow really well when people are paying, but in a time like these, when there's no cash flow, magically the property doesn't have the same type of value. And then now you have to still pay those mortgages that you don't have, there's no cash flow to pay them.
Right. Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned all of these apartment buildings, because that let me know that you do understand what I'm saying.
I get it, my brother. I've been watching this game for a long time, and so when we bumped into each other, I said, "Wait a second, this is the real thing." Because I know the difference between what's real and what's looks real. This is the real thing. This is the real game right here.
Yes. Yeah, so so a note is short for promissory note.
Right.
And it is the promise to pay back a debt anytime a loan is made. And I'll go a little bit further to say that these notes amongst investors are kind of passed back and forth like playing cards.
Right.
Right. So the note is where the power is. The mortgage, and DJ, I'll use your word, the mortgage is sort of the directions on how the note should be handled and how it should be paid back and who and what the mortgage is attached to, meaning what person or what property the mortgage is attached to. And most people are paying a mortgage, and that mortgage is essentially sending that money back to the note holder.
I want to drill down one last time, and I'm gonna try to make this example as simple as possible for those who are listening. If I buy a property and I have a mortgage on this property, and let's say I bought it for $100,000 and it's an apartment building, but it cash flows really well, and so based off the cash flow, I'm making double of what I'm paying on the mortgage. Right. And so it's cash flowing really well. It's wonderful. I'm partying, I'm doing my thing because, I got it for 100,000, but man, I make, $200,000 a month or whatever the number is, whatever it is, I'm over the amount I pay. Right. And so my mortgage is, let's just say 100,000, just so people can get it. the mortgage is 100,000, but man, you know, I make an extra 50 to a 75 to another 100,000, and I'm doing my thing. You know, all my tenants are paying. I'm at 85% capacity. Everything is wonderful, and then boom, people stop making money. They
Mm-hmm.
can't pay. They can't pay towards that apartment building. They can't pay towards that commercial building. The money flow stops. But if I had did it another way, if I had came around it from a different angle and I own a note, you're telling me that it is the promise to pay back the debt. So no matter what happens, everything comes back to the note.
Right.
The
Yes.
buck stops there. And so as much as I have 100 properties, as much as I have millions of tenants, and as much as people always need a place to stay, that's the argument. People always need a place to stay, so there always will be money flowing. But what we are seeing right now, as we're recording this, is that's not always true. The money may not always be there, but one thing that will always be there is the promise to pay back the debt. When everything stops and when everything shifts and money starts flowing back in, when everybody's been washed away, the note still stands. Am I making any sense?
You hit it.
Okay.
That's it.
How can people reach you if they want to work with you, if they want to get access to your book, if they want to learn more about this world?
So sure, you can for the book, you can simply go to Amazon and get the book, Profiting from Non-Performing Mortgage Notes, Being a Banker with Your Interest Secured by Real Estate. Again, my name is Amed Hazel Sr. If you want to get in touch with me, I would say go to privatebankingsecrets.com. I hold a webinar weekly that you can jump on and learn more about the space, privatebankingsecrets.com. And or if you're looking to invest, if you have capital that you can invest and want to play from a passive standpoint, you can go to legacybuildersfund.com and sign up. It's free to sign up. And we're just in our final stages of approval from the SEC because Big Brother makes sure that, you know, people are right when they start these kind of investments. And as soon as we launch, you'll be the first ones notified. We're going to keep our investor, we're looking to keep it small. Mm-hmm. So go register so you can be in the queue to be notified first.
I have a feeling I'm probably going to do both. I think I want to be on both sides. What type of capital should I come with? How much should I have to know that I'm in the right ballpark to invest with you on the second half of what you were mentioning?
So what we did is our first investment fund. I just want to say this as a comparison. Okay. The first investment fund is for accredited investors. Okay. And the minimum investment amount for that fund is $50,000. But we went through an arduous process, you know, with the SEC, and we're looking to actually go public with this next investment fund. But we lowered the limit to $500 as an investment. Yeah. Okay.
So that is definitely, it should be a very manageable amount. So like I said, I have a feeling I'm going to be on both sides.
Awesome.
Because I want to, you know, invest passively, but then I also want to, you know, learn as well and learn this skill set. So I'm looking forward to doing both. Amed, thank you so much for coming on Black Equity. Like you said earlier in this conversation, it may not hit everybody the first time they listen to this. They may have to go read the book and then come back. And then what was a movie you told me about? Do you care to share that movie?
Sure. One of the movies that will give you a really good perspective on this industry is called The Big Short. The Big Short. And if I could,
sure.
To give something else, there's another movie. This is a home assignment for anyone that's listening.
Okay.
There's another documentary that I would suggest people to look at. It's called The Queen of Versailles. The Queen of Versailles. And it's about David Siegel, who started the timeshare program here in the United States, or he exemplified the timeshare here in the United States. And he says something in his documentary that I would like everyone to go and watch to see if you could find how what he said relates to this podcast.
You know I'm going to do it, and I'm going to text you as soon as I find it. How did you spell that V word? The Queen of
Versailles. It's spelled, I think it's spelled like Versaille. It's a French word.
Okay.
Versailles Castle is a 90,000 square foot home that he was building for his wife. And, you know, the documentary talks about how his struggles was around it, how his companies went bankrupt like overnight, how he was holding all this real estate, and then what he did at the end of the movie to resolve his major issue.
Oh boy, I got a homework assignment, so I'm going to go watch that and then let you know what I think. For those who are listening, please take this conversation very seriously. I believe that this is the ultimate game changer. Very few people are going to be thinking this way, and that's okay. This is for sophisticated investors, people who are thinking on a deeper level. They're playing chess and not checkers. And so, Amed, thank you so much for coming on Black Equity.
My pleasure.
You are welcome to come back anytime, especially when the launch happens. If you want to come back and just talk about what's going on, I definitely want to see where things are 6 months from now, when, you know, the economy is, you know, I guess back to normal, or maybe it's not.
Yeah.
Just to kind of see, you know, what you saw during this epic time of Corona and all this other stuff. There may not be another one of these for another 100 years. And so I'll be really interested. I know we'll be talking, but I'll be really interested to know what happened during this time, just from a historical standpoint, when it comes to, you know, the mortgage industry, or the note industry, better put.
Awesome. I look forward to coming back. Let's do a part 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6.
I look forward to it. I thank you for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me.